Your hosts, Mark Rosenman and AJ Carter. Sports Talk New York is sponsored in part by Cardboard Memories, Clearview, Long Island, the law firm of Decolator, Cohen, and DePrisco, the Phoenix Tube Company, PIMS Incorporated, fueling brand performance for 30 years, Prince Associates for all your insurance needs, and Soho Table Hockey. Here are your hosts, Mark and AJ.
And good Sunday morning to you. Obviously, we are not live at the Launchpad studio, as you can hear all the noise in the background. And if you're watching us live on either YouTube or Facebook or on Twitter, you can see we are live right now from the Blue Line Deli and Bagels. And they're located at 719 West Jericho Turnpike in Huntington, New York. Stop down and see us here. We'll be here for the next hour. We're here mostly every single Sunday enjoying the show. And if you are a longtime listener of the show, you know we started off each and every week with our Major League Baseball report with John Coppinger. It's sponsored by Cardboard Memories, which is one of Long Island's most reputable memorabilia retail stores for over 29 years. The owner of Cardboard Memories, Scott Stamell, is known for his knowledge and savvy of authentic autographs. He's been featured on HBO Real Sports with Brian Gumbel. Cardboard Memories possesses the honesty and integrity one would want and need from a memorabilia source. Cardboard Memories always buying collections large and small. Let Cardboard Memories run your next charity fundraising auction. Call them to find out how they can help your organization at no cost. Cardboard Memories is located at 6401 Jericho Turnpike, Comac, New York. Visit them on the web at cardboardmemories.com or follow them on Facebook or Instagram. All right, and this is going to be a little different than our normal Major League Baseball report, because we're not going to just focus on the Yankees and Mets. It is because opening day is this week, so we are going to do our Major League Baseball preview and predictions. And if you followed us over for 17 years and you've bet with the betting sites, you're probably not listening to us anymore. That's the interesting thing. We're going to sit here today. We're going to prognosticate and we're going to talk about certain things. Some of it will happen, some of it won't, but it's always fun and it's what we do. So AJ and John, you guys ready?
Well, I'm ready. Let's realize what everyone do. And, it's the baseball season. It's a long season. And what we don't know when we sit here now, we do our analysis, is what's going to happen. We're seeing with the Mets already is injuries. And you got to realize whatever we do now, because it's a long season, don't say we didn't know what we were talking about. What we can't figure out is, who's going to get injured when, what's going to happen. With that said, I'm ready. How about you, John?
I am absolutely ready to go. And the thing that I've noticed is that I think there's always been those divisions where you've got a clear have-nots and clear haves in the division. I think it's really like that because the way teams have spended and conducted their offseason, I think that is the case in pretty much all six divisions. You've got teams that clearly have it and teams that clearly don't. And it's a dark line that separates them.
Absolutely. All right, so let's start with the National League Central. I'll go first on this one. The Cardinals, for me, are a Disney movie in the making. They're a unique situation, 2022. They're capable of competing for the National League Central crown. They made a deep October run last year. They had a 17-game winning streak, won 90 games. They have a very similar roster. Yes, they're older, but you have Wainwright and Yachty, and now you've added Pujols to the mix. That, for me, is the cherry on top. I think they hold off the Brewers, who have pitching, but, the question for me is, what does Andrew McCutchen still have left? He's not the same player he was during his MVP years with the Pirates. He did hit 27 homers for the Phillies last year. This lineup is still good, but not great. If they have any shot at challenging the Cardinals for the division title, they need Christian Yelich to be the Christian Yelich of 3 years back. Lately, he's just been a mediocre hitter. As far as the Cubs go, I'm not sure you bounce back one season after getting rid of Chris Bryant, Javier Baez, Anthony Rizzo. You add one of your offseason signings. Marcus Stroman is already talking about what a great organization the San Francisco Giants are. I mean, that's just bizarre for me. The one thing I am expecting from the Cubs as far as headlines is, Seiya Suzuki, best here in Japan. He will add length to that lineup. He'll be the face of the Cubs this season, but they'll be an also-ran, and the Pirates and the Reds are going to be, for me, one of the biggest disappointments to a fan base ever, for what they did during this offseason. But they rounded out. So for me, it's the Cardinals are the division winners. The Brewers get a wild card. Cubs, Pirates, Reds round out the division. So I'm going to throw it to you, AJ. You can go, and then you throw it to John, all right?
Sure. I disagree with you. I think the Brewers' pitching is just so good. Yeah, they need to have good seasons from people like Yelich. I think their pitching is so good. I think this is either they finally break through. I'm not convinced about the Cardinals, and we'll get to that with the Mets also. They've gone very old. When you deal with old players, you have problems. Does Pujols have anything left in the tank? Look, it's a DH, the first year of the DH. Wainwright is getting old. Too many things can happen. New manager. They had problems with the old manager and his communication with the front office. I have it Brewers, Cardinals. I agree with you, Cubs, Pirates. I'm very disappointed with the Reds, who only this time last year looked like they were building up to make a move and be a team of the future, and they started dismantling. So I think the Brewers are going to win it. I think the Cardinals have a shot at a wild card, but I'm not even so sure about that, even with the expanded playoffs.
I would tend to agree with AJ on this one. I'm going bottom up with my picks. I think the Pirates are going to be in last place, and I think the Reds are going to be closely associated with last place for most of the season for the same reasons that you guys said. The Cubs, I think, are going to be in third place. They dumped a lot of people last year, just like you guys have said, and I don't think Stroman and Suzuki are going to be enough to bring them back to the top. I agree with AJ, though, with the Cardinals. I think the Cardinals are very old, and I don't think you could depend on older players for 162 games because a lot of things happen, and I love the Brewers pitching. So I think the Brewers win the division, Cardinals, Cubs, Reds, Pirates behind them.
Interesting. Well, we will see how that plays out. Yeah, I do agree that the Cardinals are a great AARP. That should be their sponsor and maybe the hospital for special surgery. But I do like that chemistry. And sometimes when you get those guys, knowing pretty much it's their last year, something magical happens. But, you're right. They do have a lot of age, but we'll see how it plays out. We'll move over to the National League West. The Dodgers might have lost the National League West in 2021, but there's no doubt, in my opinion, they're the best team in this division entering the 2022 season. Amazing that you can say that about a team that lost Max Scherzer and Kenley Jansen. They might actually be better from the starting rotation to the lineup. The addition of Freddie Freeman to the Dodgers on paper may actually make them the best team in Major League Baseball. I think the Giants, even though I love their manager, probably take a huge step back with the loss of Kevin Gausman to the Blue Jays and Buster Posey to retirement. Those are two huge blows, leaving voids that can't be filled directly. You guys mentioned the Cardinals' age. Evan Longoria is old, not in a Cardinals old way, just in a old way. I think the Padres overtake them for second place. They grab a wild card spot. I think Bob Melvin might be the perfect fit for the Padres, as he provides both strong in-game management and he knows how to keep a lot of the personalities, and they have a lot of unique personalities on that team in sync. There's no question the Padres have the talent to challenge the Dodgers for the division, but I think the Tatis Jr. injury creates enough separation for the Dodgers to keep the division, even though that Tatis should be back in July. The Diamondbacks, Rockies round out the division. For me, the Padres get a wild card out of it as well. We'll kick it over to John this time before we move over to AJ.
So I'll go bottom up again. The Rockies are the Rockies, so they'll finish in last place. Diamondbacks in fourth place. I'm going to flip the Padres and the Giants only because I do think the Giants will take a step back. They got a lot of good years from older players last year that you didn't expect, but I really do like Gabe Kapler as a manager. I think he's a perfect fit for that organization, and I don't think they win the division, but I think he keeps them afloat and keeps them ahead of the Padres, who are really going to miss Fernando Tatis for the first 3 months of the season. So I do think the Giants will finish in second ahead of the Padres, and I don't know how anybody goes against the Dodgers, who replace Jansen and Max Scherzer with Freddie Freeman,
John,
and Craig Kimbrell.
John, I got to interrupt you because as we started saying at the beginning of the show, things change, along the way. Things change just as you were predicting your Padres Giants, and Sean Manaea is now a member of the San Diego Padres.
Oh, wow. Okay. Well, you know what? That might shift it a little bit for me. That's definitely going to make that a tougher chore for the Giants. So that's going to be. I'll still say the Padres in third place, but it'll be by a whisker.
Yeah, I'm with John on this. I think the Dodgers are the prohibitive favorite for everything to win the World Series. I think you're right. I think if anything, they got better. Adding Freddie Freeman, they had Craig Kimbrell, they had bullpen problems last year. I think they took care of their issues. I think if anything better than last year, I think they're prohibitive favorites to win the National League pennant and to win the World Series. I've gone back and forth, Giants, Padres, Giants. I think no matter who they add, the Tatis injury is so significant that it's going to hold them back for a bit. So I think the Giants, I have concerns about their age. I think they can do it, especially given the division that has the Diamondbacks and the Rockies in it. And neither one of those teams really interests me. Chris Bryant is going to hit a mile back there in Colorado, but he still can't pitch. They need somebody on the mound for that. I go Dodgers, Giants, Padres, D-backs, Rockies. I don't know if the Giants get a wild card. I think the National League East is so much stronger down the line, but let's say there's a possibility.
All right, let's move over to the American League Central. Yes, the White Sox lost Carlos Rondon. Michael Kopech is waiting in the wings to take over as the number 5 starter. Chicago's rotation is one of the best in the AL. Its lineup also is outstanding. Jose Abreu is so consistent, and there's so many professional hitters in that lineup. Jimenez, Grandal, Anderson. So I look for Tony La Russa to have continued success here. I will say this. I was a little surprised about the trade they made, especially with Michael Conforto out there. Granted, Kimbrel did not do well in Chicago when he moved over from the Cubs to the White Sox, but I think they could have kept him and added Conforto would have been interesting. I'm kind of surprised at that. I like what the Twins did by adding Sonny Gray. They improved the rotation, but to overtake the Sox, they still could use a frontline starter, which is not out there anymore. Carlos Correa is a monumental upgrade at shortstop, improving the team's fielding and run production. However, there's room for improvement in the outfield. Pritchard Archer is a nice low-risk, high-reward move that should add stability to the pitching staff. Close, but not close enough. So I say second place for the Twins. The Guardians, could have made some move to be in the mix. They didn't do really much of anything. Maybe they're counting on new, Guardian merchandise to bring in money. But they have a player in Jose Ramirez that can win an MVP. Reyes is an OPS monster. There just isn't enough talent around Reyes and Ramirez to make this a playoff caliber team for me. Michael Conforto, another place, which could have changed that, though. The Tigers, 77 and 85 last year, good for third place in the American League. They went 39 and 36 when facing opponents with 500 or better record. But the Tigers struggled against division rivals where they went 30 and 46. They've added 3 difference makers, Javi Baez, left-hander Eduardo Rodriguez, and Tucker Barnhart. Look for them to get better, but not good enough yet. The Royals' future looks good with Bobby Witt Jr. and MJ Melendez. Witt Jr. could be the future face of the major leagues, and first baseman Nick Pratto and catcher MJ Melendez will get called up at some point, but I don't think it's going to be a good one for the Royals. Let's kick it over to John for you on that one.
I think as the season goes along, I think the Guardians are going to strip down even more. I think the Ramirez is going to be gone by the time the season's over, and I think the Guardians are going to sink to the bottom of the division like a stone. So I'm actually going to pick them for last place. I think the Royals will be in 4th. I think Bobby Witt Jr. is going to be an exciting player to watch. Here comes my surprise. I think the Twins are going to finish in 3rd place. I think they have gotten better, but I don't know if I trust the back end of the rotation. I don't know if I trust the bottom half of their lineup still this season. I think the Tigers will overtake them for 2nd place. I think this is the year that Casey Mize breaks out in the rotation. And watch Spencer Torkelson, who was the number 1 overall draft pick a couple years back, and he's made the opening day roster. I think that's my big surprise, the Tigers in 2nd. And the White Sox, I don't mind the moves they make. Kimbrel was not a good fit there, especially if Tony La Russa was going to insist on having him pitch the 8th inning instead of Liam Hendricks. I don't think that was a great fit. So I think the trade was a good one to make for AJ Pollock. So now they're going to have a dangerous lineup, and I think they are going to finish in 1st place.
Well, I sort of agree with John on some things and not on the others. Let's start by agreeing on the Tigers. I think the Tigers are a huge upgrade. I think you look at what they did with their signings, with Javi Baez, with Spencer Torkelson, who I think could be Rookie of the Year, and he made the team out of spring training. There's no more playing around with service time. I think they're going to finish 2nd in the division. I like what the Twins did in the offseason. I think they upgraded big time. I think that they, with Correa shortstop and Gray, and Gary Sanchez, who can hit, even has some fielding issues, Gio Urshela at 3rd base. I think they are, in much better shape. I think they're going to win the division. I think the White Sox take a step back. The problem with AJ Pollock, this is the theme I've been talking about today, is he's a great player when he's on the field. If you get 110 games out of AJ Pollock, you're lucky. He gets hurt every place he's been. He gets hurt for long periods of time. The Royals are probably the team in the upgrade. The Guardians, I agree. They started already dismissing. I have a Twins, Tigers, White Sox, Royals, Guardians.
Wow. All right. right, that's out of the box for sure. We haven't spoken to Mike, but we'll get to Mike at the very end. We'll go through all Mike's predictions. Let's move over to the American League West. So how do you not put the Astros atop the AL West in any of your predictions? I'd be shocked if any of us have.
I don't.
All right, well, we'll get to that then. Justin Verlander's back. Kyle Tucker, Jordan Alvarez, and Alex Bregman are healthy. Losing Correa hurts, but with Altuve and Baker, Dusty Baker as your manager, I think they'll handle that just fine. We keep talking New York about how snake-bit the New York Mets are when it comes to injuries. I think the Angels are the West Coast cousins. Can the Angels avoid bad fortune? If they can get full seasons from Anthony Rendon, Mike Trout, Shohei Ohtani, and Noah Syndergaard, no doubt they're a playoff team. The bullpen and rotation are stronger than last season, and the lineup will be productive. It will all come down, similar to the Mets, on how many IL stints the Angels stars have in 2022. I actually see Noah as a 500 or below pitcher this season for what I'm looking for now. With everyone healthy, this looks like a wild card team to me. But if they're not, look for the Mariners to challenge them. Kelnick needs to make a lot of strides for that to happen. Julio Rodriguez won't likely be brought up immediately. But the move for both Jesse Winkler and Eugenio Suarez might just be enough to overcome their mediocre rotation. Texas Rangers spent heavily on Corey Seager and Marcus Semien, added 2 all-star hitters to their lineup. However, the outfield and the starting rotation for me is pretty much on par with the Atlantic League. Because of that, 500 for me would be highly unlikely, although a lot of people are picking them for much higher. As far as Oakland go, Bassett, Matt Olson, Matt Chapman are gone. They are the AL version of the Cincinnati Reds. So that's where I have it. We'll kick it over to AJ on this since he disagrees with the Astros. I want to hear his reasoning for that.
Well, I think this is the year the Angels finally put it together. Everything, it's only a matter of time. They have the talent if they stay on the field. When you've got Syndergaard your rotation, I like rotation. And Aaron Luke, don't forget that. He was great for the Mets last year. If you take a look at Trout, at Ohtani, at Rendon, who should be better this year, I think they have the lineup. I think they have the rotation. They have the manager. I like Joe Madden. We all like Joe Madden. I think this is the year they finally put it together. My other surprise is I like what the Rangers did in the offseason also. I think they showed a willingness to spend to do stuff at midseason corrections. I think they passed the Astros. I think the Astros take a step back this year. I think they're hurt by the loss of Correa. I think it really affects them. I have Angels, Rangers, Astros, Mariners, and I think the A's will be playing the Ducks by the end of the season. And in terms of the talent that they have, they are. I think they are so pushing and playing their game to get either a new stadium in Oakland or move to Las Vegas. This is the game they're playing. It's a game of chicken. I don't think it's going to work, and they're going to fade out of the league probably by mid-May.
Yeah, I agree with that part of it, AJ. I think Oakland finishes in dead last. You can tell how they're stripping their team, similar to the Guardians and the Reds. They're in last place. I hate handicapping this division every year because every year I want to get cute with it and say that the Astros are going to take a step back, and every year they don't. They never do. And every year I keep thinking like AJ, and I applaud you, AJ, for thinking that this is going to be the year that the Angels are going to finally break through, but I can't do it unless they show it to me. I do think the Angels will finish in third, ahead of the Rangers, who, like Mark said, they've got a brand new middle infield, but not much else. And I think Seattle will almost overtake Houston, and they'll be in a wild card spot because Houston's going to win the division. This might be the last year they do it, but they'll do it.
Interesting, and I do applaud you for AJ. That is really thinking out of the box. And not only not winning the division but falling to third is very interesting. Now, for me, I agonize every year over this, the AL East. Without a doubt, it's the most fun, but it's also the most challenging. Toronto's move this offseason have to make them a favorite. Matt Chapman is one of the best defensive players in the game. His bat should look better, the talent around him. The rotation lost Robbie Ray, but they added Kevin Gausman, one of AJ's favorites. Kikuchi is on this team. For now, it's the best team in the AL East. In Tampa, however, the Wander Franco effect cannot be overlooked. He's going to be one of the best players in Major League Baseball before long. Maybe that even happens this season. Besides Wander, the Rays have the best pitching in the East, and that can't be overlooked. In a season where arms will be tested more than ever, the Rays, in my opinion, battle hard, but they fall short of Toronto, but they pick up a wild card spot. The next spot, I agonized over, and this is maybe the first year I have in probably the last 10 that I don't have the Yankees making the playoffs. I love the Red Sox infield. Yes, Trevor Story might not have been the sexy pick, but he is a very consistent. And again, we have to see the Colorado effect, maybe. But listen, it didn't really affect DJ LeMahieu. If we're going to be a Yankee fan and say, oh, well, he put all those numbers up in Colorado. Well, so did DJ LeMahieu, and how did that work out for the Yankees? If this was 6 years ago, Chris Sale, Nathan Eovaldi, and Michael Walker would have had me thinking, this was a 105-win team. Now it's not so much. However, it's still, in my opinion, better than Cole and pray for 4 days of rain. That being said, the Yankees lineup can absolutely rake. But in the end, I think the Yanks' lack of pitching and the home run or bust constructed lineup will hurt. So I'm taking Boston over the Yankees and a wild card berth. The Orioles, as always, round out the division. So for me, just recapping the entire American League, rundown for me, it's the Jays, White Sox, and Astros as division winners, Angels, Rays, and Red Sox with the wild card. We'll kick it over to you this time, John. Go ahead.
The Orioles will finish in last place. They're thinking of signing Matt Harvey. They're going to finish in last place. I do agree with you. I think the Yankees are the fourth best team in that division, and I think the standings will reflect that. They are going to finish in fourth place. How many times do I say they need a number two starter? They need a number two starter. And they still haven't really gotten a big-time number two starter. Jordan Montgomery is a nice piece. I don't know if he's a number two starter. And I think that that division is so tough that they're going to finish with a very good record, but in fourth place. I am going to flip-flop, and I'm the guy that always says that to count out the Rays at your own peril. But the Rays, the thing that I got on the Yankees about last year is having Corey Kluber as their second starter. Well, now the Rays have Corey Kluber as their second starter with Shane Baz out for a while with surgery. So I can't quite take the Rays over the Red Sox. I do think they'll both make the playoffs, but I think it'll be the Rays in third, the Red Sox in second place. And I love the Blue Jays. I love what they've done. I love what they've been building towards. They're going to win the division.
I'm with John on that. I have Toronto winning the division. I like their young talent. One year with more experience. I like Vlad Jr. I like Bichette. I like everybody they've got on their team. I think they win the division. I think Boston finishes second. You talk about the Colorado effect of Trevor Story. Well, he's a right-hand batter playing in Fenway Park. You've got the Fenway Park effect. I think he has a big year playing in Fenway Park. I think Tampa Bay, every year people, write Tampa Bay off at some point as a small market team. I think they hold on to third, Yankees fourth, and Orioles somewhere back fifth, but not as distantly as the A's in the AL West or the Reds in the NL Central. So Toronto, Boston, Tampa Bay, Yankees, Orioles, Toronto, Twins, Angels win the divisions. I think Boston, I think Tampa Bay, I think Detroit is a surprise team. I think the Yankees may do just enough to make the last wild card in the playoffs. I think the Blue Jays win it all.
Interesting. All right, we weren't that far off, and that is a very tough division, and we all, kind of put the Yankees for fourth, so they'll probably win the division. So now let's look at the National League East. And every single year that we do this show, I always go with my heart over my head, but the Atlanta Braves are the defending champs. Even more surprising, after letting Freddie Freeman walk in free agency, they don't miss a beat as they add Matt Olson, Kelly Jansen, and Colin McHugh. I think that makes them a tough team to bet against as far as the division goes. And this is just an interesting sidelight because, now with Jacob deGrom, possibly, missing till maybe June or July. Scherzer, I don't think is going to miss more than maybe one start, if even that. But, we look at things and as, Met fans or whatever fandom of you are of whatever team it is, you tend to overrate these prospects. We can go back to Generation K, but let's go even closer where we had all this, can't miss, Harvey, Syndergaard, Matz, and Wheeler. Okay, if I told you today that Colin McHugh has more major league wins than all of them, and you had the opportunity to make that bet years ago, you would have never taken that bet. So, you know what? The fact that, Jake is going to miss time opens up some time for, some of our pitchers that, listen, I like Tyler McGill a lot. And I think, he's going to get an opportunity now because of Jake's injury. And he might turn out to be the next Colin McHugh, and that wouldn't be such a bad thing. As far as the Mets go, I think they're going to be second place if they and a wild card. If they don't make the wild card, this will be, and write this down. This is a bold prediction. If the Mets don't make a wild card, this will be the most disappointing season in Met history. I'm not going out on the ledge there. That for sure. Obviously, last year's collapse may have spurred, owner Steve Cohen to spend more money than he planned, but you can't argue the results. Marcus Stroman being replaced by Max Scherzer, the holes in the lineup being filled by Starlin Marte, Mark Canha, and Eduardo Escobar. This may be the best lineup in the National League, but with the rotation, if Jake comes back, but Scherzer, Taijuan Walker, Chris Bassett, Carlos Carrasco, if healthy, that's a huge if. There's no doubt they cruise to a wild card. If this was a Sunday morning softball preview show, I'd be picking the Phillies, but it's not. Phillies committed to spending money this offseason. They improved the lineup with Kyle Schwarber and Nick Castellanos. Those are huge two additions, creating a lineup that should be among the National League leaders in home runs and RBIs, but probably also in errors. The Phillies defense is awful. Their bullpen is pretty bad. Their starting rotation is not great. Their fielding is going to cost them multiple games as well as their bullpen, and that's going to cost them a potential playoff spot. And then there's the Marlins. That's all I need to say. Then there's the Marlins. So my National League picks: Braves, Cards, Dodgers, division winners, wild cards, Mets, Brewers, Padres. Let's kick it to AJ first, then we'll go with John, and then we're going to get all Mike's picks.
Well, we're going to disagree mightily in this division because I really like what the Phillies did in the offseason. Aside from the fact that they signed Jeurys Familia to go in the bullpen, I think they're going to win the division. I think their lineup is just too good. I think their starting pitching is going to be better than you think with Wheeler and Aaron Nola at the top of the rotation. I think they win the division. I think the Braves, even though you're right, they didn't miss a beat in replacing Freddie Freeman and Matt Olson, I think they take one slight step back. I think they finish second. I can't figure out who to push third, whether it's the Mets or the Nationals. Both have questions. And we've said this for months, I'm very concerned about the Mets having a very old roster. They're depending on too many people who I think are a little old. When they went free agent, they got people who are potentially right at the cusp, heading towards the downside of their career. If they're at the top, and Marte's at the top, fine. He's had some injury histories. Cano, how heavily they depend on Cano. Can he go through a full season? Can he hit? Can he play DH? And the pitching with Scherzer, he's 37 years old. DeGrom is 34. Both have some injuries. DeGrom serious. Scherzer, you say not so much, but it's the start of the season injuries. I can't figure out where to place them versus the Nationals, but I have Phil's Braves at the top. Let me go with my a little bit the same. Mets third, Nationals fourth, and the Marlins still in the league. I think Braves obviously make a wild card if they win the division. If the Mets finish third, they make the wild card. If not, the Nationals.
I actually think the bottom is going to fall out on the Nationals. When you put together, when you put together a World Series winning team and you paid deferred money to players to make that happen, at some point down the road, you're going to pay for it. I think this is the year they're going to pay for it, and I think they're going to finish in dead last, and I think the Marlins are going to pass them for fourth. I'm not high on the Phillies for the reasons that Mark said. I don't like their defense. I don't like their bullpen, and that wins pennants and that wins division titles. I think they're going to be in third. I was ready to pick the Mets. I was ready to go with my heart when I was thinking about these rankings, but then Jake got hurt, and then Scherzer's hamstring tweaked. I think it's going to be a hard ask to have Scherzer and DeGrom make 50 starts combined this season. So I think that's going to push them back. I do think their lineup is very good, and I think their bullpen is better than people think. So I think they're going to keep them in the race. But the Braves, they lost Freddie Freeman and somehow turned that into a positive, and they made a lot of other acquisitions. I think the Braves are champs until further notice. I think they win the division. I will say that the Mets will grab a wild card, and I think the Giants and Padres will grab the wild cards to round out the National League. And by the way, in the American League, I don't think I said my wild cards. I think the wild cards will be Boston, Tampa, and Seattle to go along with the division winners.
Okay, we're going to kick it over to Mike, and the reason why we didn't include Mike throughout this whole thing, because Mike was doing Extremely difficult work. As you might not know if you just tuned in, we are now broadcasting live from the Blue Line Deli and Bagels, located at 719 West Jericho Turnpike, Huntington, New York. And if you are watching the stream on either YouTube, on Facebook Live, or on Twitter, you can see where Mike is sitting. He's sitting right in front of the basketball court here at the Blue Line Deli. So he had to try to adjust the mic levels so you heard as little of the bricks being thrown up in the background as possible. So we're going to have Mike open up his mic now and give us his predictions. Go ahead, Mike.
All right, so I'm going to start with the AL East. I have the Blue Jays winning the division by at least 3 games. I think their lineup's way too good as of right now. With them losing Robbie Ray, as Mark said, they did add Kevin Gausman, and I think that's going to be pretty much the same effect as Robbie Ray had for them. I actually have the Yankees finishing in second place.
You're doing one of mine. You're going with your heart over your head, but go ahead.
No, I'm just thinking like this. So the Yankees last year, I believe they were number 2 in the American League in the pitcher ERA. And I think if they can continue something like that, the additions of Donaldson, Connor Falefa, and them re-signing Rizzo, I think they can really make some noise in the AL East. That being said, the AL East is a dogfight, and the Rays can always be the Rays and fool everyone again. I believe with the Red Sox, though, I think Trevor Story, his numbers were so different outside of Coors Field that it's a little bit of a red flag to me. I think their rotation is at the bottom of the league, and they don't have much bullpen help either. So unless they add before the middle of the season, I think they're going to be in a lot of trouble. And the Orioles are the Orioles. The AL Central, I have the White Sox winning it by a pretty hefty margin. I think not the other teams just didn't really get it much better outside of the Twins, maybe the Tigers, but I don't think they all have the pitching that the White Sox have that'll be able to keep pace with them. AL West, I actually have the Mariners winning that division. I think their lineup's very, very deep. To make up for their lack of pitching, they do have Paul Sewald in the bullpen, who is surprisingly really good.
Yeah. It is unbelievable.
It's crazy where he came from, right? I think this is the year the Astros do take a little bit of a
another
step
one.
back.
Wow.
I just think that Verlander coming back, you don't know what to expect from him. I think the rotation itself got a little weaker. They lost Carlos Correa. The chemistry's not going to be there, I have a feeling. And I just have them finishing in second, followed by the Rangers, the Angels, and the A's.
Rangers. Wow. Okay. We've got a lot of disagreement among the staff. Go ahead.
Got the NL East. I got the Braves winning. In my opinion, you have to knock off the chance before you put them anywhere other than first in the division. I think the Mets, if they're healthy, they could very easily finish in first. But with the injury history that team has, I have them in second right now. The Phillies, like Mark said, their defense is atrocious. They're going to end up with 1,000 errors on the year. I have the Marlins actually finishing in fourth.
Wow.
I think the young team, they showed promise 2 years ago in that shortened season. I think last year they had a little bump in the road, but I think they're going to get back to the process, I think. And the Nationals, I think, don't have much to play for this year. The NL Central, I got the Brewers winning it. I think their pitching is just way too deep. Their bullpen is
You
way
and
too
AJ in
deep.
lockstep there. Okay.
Their bullpen and pitching rotation are way too deep for me. I think Christian Yelich finds himself again. And
That's a big question mark for me. That's a big ask. It's 2 years in a row. I mean, we sit here talking about Robbie Cano. I think it's a bigger ask for, Yelich, who's had some back problems to come back. But, if he does come back, you're right.
Listen, he's an MVP caliber player when he's playing the way he's obviously shown that he can play in the past. And I think if he gets back to that, they can make a push for that division. The Cardinals, we were talking about how they're just an old team. Injuries happen with old teams. But then again, they have a very, very good couple of players. You got Nolan Arenado, Paul Goldschmidt. Those players can carry you to a division. I got the Cubs in third. I don't see a lot of hype behind them personally. I think Suzuki's going to be a good addition to their team. I don't think Marcus Stroman's a number 1 starter, if even a number 3 starter. And his body language, what he's saying about the Giants already, I think it's a bad look. I'm not sold on that at all. The Reds disappointed their entire fan base, selling their entire team after looking like they were going to be playoff contenders for years to come. And I have them in fourth. The Pirates are going to have finished with 32 wins. The Dodgers, in my opinion, are by far the best team in baseball. I think their lineup is arguably one of the best lineups you've ever seen. You added Freddie Freeman. You lost Max Scherzer, but, like we said before, you don't really ever get better losing guys like that. They did. The Padres in second, Giants, Rockies, and then the Diamondbacks.
Awesome. All right. So what we'll do is everyone's going to email me their picks. I'll post them on social media. And then by midseason, you can laugh at all of us and say, look, if these guys have no idea what they're talking about. We will take a quick break on the other side. Someone that knows what he's talking about when it comes to hockey, Russ Cohn with the NHL Report right after this.
Do you own a business? When is the last time you actually had a visit from or even spoke with your insurance representative? Did your current insurance agency sell to another firm or maybe merge, leaving you without the attention you deserve? Prince Associates is a provider of commercial insurance nationwide and represents some of the finest insurance carriers in the industry. Prince Associates has been representing commercial clients since 1965, and we continue to grow and offer our personal services in a competitive and ever-changing market. If you want back the insurance relationship you deserve, reach out to us, 516-822-6550. That's area code 516-822-6550. And ask for Leith or Craig, or find us on the web at www.princeins.com.
And good Sunday morning to you. Welcome back to Sports Talk New York. Right now, we're broadcasting live from the Blue Line Deli and Bagels, located at 719 West Jericho Turnpike, Huntington, New York. It's time now for the NHL Report with Russ Cohn. It's sponsored by our friends over at Soho Table Hockey. What's table hockey, you say? Some of us might have grown up with the rod hockey or bubble hockey or even air hockey table games. Soho Table Hockey has embraced the nostalgia of those old tabletop games, designed a whole new board for the future, handcrafted with designer woods, a state-of-the-art playing surface, unbendable rods, energy-absorbing walls. This is a tabletop hockey game that players age 8 to 80 can enjoy. Even better, the exceptional quality and design allows the game to stand up to the intensity of tournaments, which is why Soho Table Hockey is the #1 choice of championship players throughout North America. Visit SohoTableHockey.com to learn more. Start your order on a custom game. You can choose your wood, a centerized logo, and even team matchups. Go ahead, drop the puck. You'll love Soho Table Hockey so much you won't be able to stop playing. I have to ask you, Russ, this week, I think it was Howie Rose that had a tweet after Kreider had, a goal in one of the games, and he said, he calculated how many games were left and how many goals Chris needed to break the all-time Ranger goal-scoring record for a single season, which is Jaromir Jagr at 54, and said, listen, he loved Jaromir Jagr as a player, but, if you're a Ranger fan, you want Chris Kreider to have that distinction. I'll go a step further. Chris Kreider, and this is the question I want to ask you, since you were one of the authors of Rangers 100 Greats. If he does in fact break that record, he's going to move into the top 10 of all-time scorers of the New York Rangers, with many years still to go as a Ranger. I know you in your Ranger Greats book, a couple of the top guys were not full-time, their career New York Rangers. Chris Kreider has that opportunity. Right now, where does Kreider rank, in your opinion, in your 100 Rangers Greats book, if you had to revise it?
I think he'd be right around the 15 mark. I do. It's possible to get in the top 10, but that's awfully tough. I don't think he's there yet. It's interesting because I had told friends when the Rangers drafted Kreider that he could be the best homegrown forward that they drafted since, like Rattel. And I said, I understand Rattel is a higher end skill guy, but I knew Kreider had this scoring in him. And even as recent as last year, I was on Sirius XM and some guy was calling like Kreider a bum and what that contract was horrible. And I just said, I have to talk about this. I said, this guy's completely wrong. This guy's really good. He'll get hot. He got hot last year. And with Gallant, I knew Gallant was going to need a guy in front of the net, and I knew Kreider would do it. So Kreider, it's just nice to see another 50-goal scorer for the Rangers because they haven't had enough. Kreider could end up in that top 10 for sure, and he's legit. He should be the captain too. I don't understand what the weight is on that.
Yeah, I agree. I every single time I see an A on him, I'm wondering why he's not the captain and why they've delayed. The Rangers also, it kind of flew under the radar. It wasn't as big as the Jimmy Vesey signing when he was a free agent and a Hobie Baker, award winner. But listen, George McPhee was a Hobie Baker winner also. Should Ranger fans be excited? I mean, this kid is small. You're the prospect guy. Where do you see his eventual ceiling as an NHL player?
And who, the name cracked up. Who was it?
Trevino.
Bobby Trevino.
Okay. Bobby Trevino. Yeah, I watched him. I watched him with UMass. I watched him win the championship. Look, he could put the puck in the net. He's a good skater. He's fiery, but I don't know if he's anything more than a third liner. If he could crack the everyday lineup for the Rangers, it would be hard. I wouldn't just automatically pencil him in and think he's going to be a guaranteed NHLer. I think there's going to be some struggles for him, but there is some talent there. So, I'd like to think there's a, 40% chance he could do it.
And lastly, the Rangers made news, maybe not in a good way. A couple of people I spoke to at the Garden the other night said the story was kind of overblown, that it was a misinterpretation of, the reporter telling someone else's story. But the story came out that, a French reporter was asking Lafreniere a question in French, and the Rangers PR stopped them and said, English only, and then after, which is against NHL bylaws, by the way. And then afterwards, the reporter went and spoke to the Rangers public relations person. They didn't mention who it was, and he said, well, Chris Drury wants it that way. That's our policy, because he wants to know what's being asked and what's being said. Obviously the people around the Garden spin it differently, but what do you make of that story?
No, it's flat out wrong. I mean, it happened on the call. I don't know how someone can say it's been misinterpreted when it happened on the call. If you want to argue, if the Garden wants to argue that it's not Chris Drury that did it, it doesn't matter if it's not Chris Drury that did it. He's the one who's going to get the blame. So, I don't see how there's a misinterpretation here, but I'm sure Lafreniere still, not being on that call, probably still answered it in French and should do that. Again, they want to follow him. There are French-speaking people that want to follow him. He is a big-time player for them and a big-time role model. Why would you mess with that? I don't understand any of it. And no matter whose fault it is, I know they have a new PR guy too. It doesn't matter. It's a mistake that should never be made again.
Absolutely, totally agree. And lastly, New York Islanders playing real well of late. Listen, I don't put a lot of credence into the game they played against the Rangers, because no matter what era of Ranger Islander hockey, you never know what you're going to get on any given night. Whether it could be the expansion Islanders have had great games against the Rangers, back in the day when the Rangers were better. But you have to say, listen, and Mike and I were talking, it's just amazing that the New York Islanders have one less regulation win than the Washington Capitals, yet they're so far behind them in the standings, and they've almost caught up in games now. I think there's only one game in hand. But, this Islander team, what do you make of this second, not even second half of the season? I'd say probably the last month and a half.
Yeah, I think things have gelled for them where they didn't gel at all this season. I feel like they're, playing for their playoff lives every day, and so they've gotten on this little bit of a run here, but it's too little too late. And next year, everybody's going to be a year older. I think they're going to struggle next year to even recapture this. I think unless they make a move in the summer and they could really get in somebody who could score, you can't keep riding this differential train and say, well, the differential's good, so we're going to win. Yeah, that may be true in the Trotz era, but I think things are changing. I'm not sure Barry Trotz is changing, and I think they need to take a hard look at that, because yeah, you might be one win behind, but you're 13 points behind. The math is going to keep you out of it unless you win every game to end the season. And again, Washington loses almost every game. Like, it's not going to happen. But it is amazing how teams can play better when the heat is off. Because essentially, there's no pressure there.
Totally agree. All right, Russ, we'll talk to you next week when I think the playoff picture next week might be a little more in focus of who's going to play who.
Yeah.
And we'll start, saying what are the optimal matchups and what are matchup teams might want to avoid. It doesn't matter, because in the end, the teams play to win. They don't play to, drop or move up in the standings to, determine who they're going to play. But let's just, we'll figure it out and see what are the best optimal matchups for each of these teams. We'll speak to you next week. Russ Cohn.
All right.
And here and every week with the Soho Table Hockey Report. Going to take a quick break. On the other side, we're going to have AJ's Sunday Papers. We'll round out the show with the NBA and the NFL Report. So keep it tuned right here to Sports Talk New York.
The Phoenix Tube Company Incorporated is among the country's leading manufacturers of structural ornamental stainless steel tubing, rectangles, squares, and processed flat bars. The company takes pride in its everyday commitment to quality and customer service. The philosophy of the company has been and continues to be to support the growth of the stainless tube market through distribution and service centers throughout the country. Ornamental and structural stainless steel tubing is used for a wide variety of aesthetic and mechanical products where superior finish and corrosion resistance are required. Some products manufactured include tubing for mirror bracket arms, boat rails and ladders, washroom grab bars, swimming pool rail products, medical equipment, automotive step bars and trimming, as well as structural framing for food processing equipment. For a quote or for more information on how the Phoenix Tube Company can meet your ornamental and structural stainless steel tubing needs, visit them on the web at phoenixtube.com or call them toll-free at 1-800-526-2124.
Decolator Cohen and DePrisco, LLP, is pleased to introduce their website, policeofficersrighttosue.com, as an educational and informative site designed to instruct members of the law enforcement community of their civil rights in line-of-duty accidents. Many law enforcement members are not aware of their rights to sue and fail to bring lawsuits within a specific time frame, thereby forfeiting their ability to seek rightful compensation against those parties that cause officers to be injured. PoliceofficersRightToSue.com provides successful past results of line-of-duty lawsuits. These examples range from officers being provided with inadequate equipment, RMP accidents, slip and falls, and station house mishaps. If any law enforcement member has a question regarding a potential lawsuit, they can contact DCD at policeofficersrighttosue.com or at 1-800-901-1LAW. That's policeofficersrighttosue.com or 1-800-901-1LAW.
You can read it in the Sunday papers. Read it in the Sunday papers.
Yeah, Scott Muni on WNEW FM. Joe Jackson, no, not WNEW. You didn't get into a time warp. That's AJ's theme music for his Sunday papers, a weird story of the week. What do you got for us, AJ?
Well, as usual, I wrestled about which one to choose. And I could have done the Seattle Kraken DJ when the first fight broke out in the game, played the theme from Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. I'm not doing that this week. I could take a look at in Kawasaki, Japan, where today's the start of the annual Penis Festival. No kidding. We can do that later if you want. But we're going to go out to Oregon in honor tonight of the final game of the women's NCAA tournament, which pits surprise UConn against Stanford. In Oregon, finally opened something. This is the Virginia Slims. You've come a long way, baby. A sports bar dedicated to women's sports. And it's called the Sports Bra, B-R-A, not a typo. And the woman who opened the restaurant believes it's the first world sports bar dedicated exclusively to women's sports. They started with the broadcast women's soccer game. And of course, I'm going to have the NCAA championship tonight. And, it's an indication of how sports has now become totally coeducational and emphasis, greater emphasis on women's sports. Women finally have their own sports bar, the Sports Bra in Portland, Oregon.
Well, it begs the question I think, AJ, you need to call and find out if they will be televising the Penis Festival at the women's sports bar. That's, inquiring minds want to know. I mean, really.
Yeah. Somehow I don't think so, but I can email you several details, Mark, about
please
about the parade they have at the Penis Festival, about the floats, the costumes, the merch. Yes, they have merch.
Wow.
Portable shrine.
Okay. All right. Let's, you did mention basketball. It's now time for the Capco NBA report with Chaim Tauber. Spring is here. You know it. Now it's time to get your windows and doors ready to let that fresh air in and the bugs out with the Clearview retractable screen. The Clearview retractable screen system comes standard with a lifetime warranty and the patented speed reducer so it won't snap back. You get the luxury of a screen door and a sleek, low-profile design without the hassle of a bulky storm door or sliding screen door. Call 631-440-1100 for a free estimate. That's 631-440-1100 or visit them on the web at clearviewlongisland.com. You know what? I'm not longtime listeners of the show know that AJ is the basketball guy. There's just too much hockey going on and baseball. But, the NCAA tournament, obviously, no matter if you're a casual fan or not, you wanted Coach K to win that game last night. It didn't happen. Chaim, tell us, Coach K, that was his last game. That was it, and tell us a little bit about it.
Yeah, so I got to disagree with you first and foremost. There is a strong segment of the population that would have liked Coach K to have a nice send-off, but in all of sports, there might be no team, program, or franchise as hated as Duke. There is a large portion of this country that is celebrating today. Coach K has arguably the greatest coaching tenure in NCAA history. John Wooden's era was very much a different one. Gino Auriemma is obviously playing he's coaching in a much different field. For Duke to have the sustained success, dominance, and to have evolved as they have, if you think how long he's been doing this, the success they've had back in the Christian Laettner era versus what they looked like with Jason Tatum, the way the sport has evolved, the 3-point line versus the bigs, and that Duke's been right in the thick of it for the better part of 40 years it can't be overstated how impressive Coach K's run has been and the different personnel he's done it with. Not to mention, all the work he's done with Team USA and everything else. But Coach K is going to go down as, if not the greatest, then right up there on the Mount Rushmore of great coaches, not only in NCAA history, but maybe in all of American sports. So to have the send-off he did against UNC in the Final Four had to sting. But I guess if there was any way to vanquish somebody that great, I guess it had to be, the arch rival, the lifelong foe, the mortal enemy. So maybe, if not the storybook ending, if there was going to be anything other than a championship or a title for Coach K send-off, that might have been the most fitting way to end it.
I think you have to take a look at fitting way. This was truly a game for the ages. It was amazing that all the time that Duke and UNC had met over the years because they play in the same conference, et cetera, they never met before in the NCAA tournament. And for those of us who watched the game last night, this was a game for the ages. It went back, there were 12 ties, 13 lead changes. It was exciting at the very end. I think you look at a couple of things about this. First of all, it's the type of game, whether he won or not. His team played great. It was a great game. They went out on that type of note. And it's interesting passing of the torch because you have, while it went to be a great program, they had a rookie coach this year. And one of the questions I had, nobody picked North Carolina to go this far to go to the final game, is would you Davis be the coach who could carry them there? And you look at the next generation of coaches. Hubert Davis, we all knew from when he played for the Knicks, seemed to have learned well, at the feet of Roy Williams, and just carried the team through without missing a beat. I think it was a great game. I think Coach K's legacy is well established. But I think we're going to have a really great final game Monday night. I think, and you mentioned something that changed, to 3 points. If you take a look, especially at Kansas, Kansas is an inside team. They're not as much a 3-point team as the traditional work the ball inside. They are big. I think you're going to see a very, very good game Monday night. Spoiler alert, truth be told here, if Kansas wins, I win my bracket pool because I picked them from the start. But I think, we had a great semifinal game last night with Duke and North Carolina. I think we'll have a great game Monday night with Kansas, and this is the Roy Williams, coaching tree final that Bill Self, who took over from Roy Williams in Kansas, coaching against Davis, who took over from Roy Williams at North Carolina. I think we've got it's been a great tournament. I think it's going to be a great game coming up Monday.
Yeah, AJ, you took the words out of my mouth. I think this is the Roy Williams team, and that I think that in a large degree, North Carolina, although Duke might have been the better story, North Carolina is the much tougher. I think Kansas would have loved to see Duke in the finals. I think North Carolina poses a much tougher matchup for them in that the teams they parallel each other in many ways. I think McCormick and Bagcott in the paint is going to be that battle is going to determine the winner of this game to a large degree. They kind of spread the floor. They're both long. They defend on the perimeter, but they win on the glass. And to a large degree, if the shots fall, what we saw last night, everybody keeps talking about what a great game Duke played. To be honest, I don't think Duke played great. I think Duke played tough. They couldn't hit a shot. 12 for 20 from the free throw line. They couldn't hit anything from 3-point. And their shot was bothered by the length of North Carolina to a large degree. So when you see Kansas shooting the way they did last night against, admittedly, a depleted, Nova team, how is the length of North Carolina going to affect their perimeter shooting? Are they going to be able to just play bully ball? Because that didn't work for Duke. They've got all their points in the paint, and it just wasn't enough. I think this is going to be a really compelling matchup, and frankly, I think that Bangkok, depending on how healthy he is, obviously the ankle injury last night, depending on how healthy he is, who wins that battle in the paint between him and McCormick, I think it's going to largely determine this. Otherwise, the teams are the same. You got, you got Love, you got Davis, you got Manick running around, shooting threes and stretching the floor. Kansas got the same thing with Abaji and Braun. They're virtually the same team, only on opposite ends of the seeding spectrum. So this is going to be a barn burner, and I think this is going to be an absolute classic to determine the national champion.
All right, we know what AJ is rooting for Kansas City for his bracket. We'll take a quick break. We'll spend time next week. We'll obviously focus more on the NBA once the NCAA tournament is over. We'll come back. We'll round it out with the NFL with Jay Retcher. So keep it tuned right here.
The Phoenix Tube Company Incorporated is among the country's leading manufacturers of structural ornamental stainless steel tubing, rectangles, squares, and processed flat bars. The company takes pride in its everyday commitment to quality and customer service. The philosophy of the company has been and continues to be to support the growth of the stainless tube market through distribution and service centers throughout the country. Ornamental and structural stainless steel tubing is used for a wide variety of aesthetic and mechanical products where superior finish and corrosion resistance are required. Some products manufactured include tubing for mirror bracket arms, boat rails and ladders, washroom grab bars, swimming pool rail products, medical equipment, automotive step bars and trimming, as well as structural framing for food processing equipment. For a quote or for more information on how the Phoenix Tube Company can meet your ornamental and structural stainless steel tubing needs, visit them on the web at phoenixtube.com or call them toll-free at 1-800-526-2124.
And we're back in the home stretch, broadcasting live from the Blue Line Deli and Bagels, located at 719 West Jericho Turnpike, Huntington, New York. Stop by any Sunday and hang out and listen to the show with us, and maybe even ask some questions while we're here. The perfect guy to ask some questions about the NFL, and in particular, anything that happens Tampa Bay-wise, is our NFL beat report, Jay Retcher. It's unbelievable. Since you've come aboard, Jay, it's like every week there's something going on in Tampa. Todd Bowles now the head coach of Tampa. You and I spoke last week about Brady maybe moving to Florida, and you said like everyone in Tampa's laughing about that. Now another story is that he had a problem with the head coach, and that's why the head coach is no longer the head coach. But I don't believe that's the truth, and I'm sure you know more about it. So fill us in on why Todd Bowles is now the new head coach of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Well, first and foremost, I mean, this is part of Bruce Arians' plan all along. He came here and he put the people in place knowing that it wasn't just going to be for when it was his tenure as the head coach. It was going to be a succession plan. A lot of people were wondering if it was going to be Byron Leftwich or Todd Bowles. But he's been with Todd Bowles ever since all the way back in their Temple days. Todd Bowles brings up a great story about how he used to be Bruce's son, then he turned into his nephew, then his cousin, now he's his brother. So these guys have known each other for a very, very long time. And, Mark, we've went through every single side of this story throughout the last week. People say, oh, it's a conspiracy and Brady pushed him out and this and that. After talking to as many people as I have over the last 7 days and, just trying to go through everything, Bruce is 69 years old, and I was speaking to a cameraman down here, and he goes, Jay, last year when he tore his Achilles and he was riding around on the scooter, he just looked miserable, man. He was taking medicine. He was all flushed. He looked like his blood pressure was high. It was just going to be right before the draft and right before everything started kicking in a high gear. I think Bruce just looked at it and went, now's the perfect time. Now's the perfect time to turn it over to Todd. I'm sure they checked with Tom Brady. We weren't sure if he was going to be at the introductory press conference. He was there in the front row, shaking hands with Bruce, shaking hands with Todd. He's on board with this. He's known Todd for a long time, too. So as much as the story would be a lot better, I'm sure, if it was some big conspiracy, it really wasn't that. Bruce wanted this to happen like this all the way around and all along. So, Todd Bowles is the new leading man. I know a lot of Jet fans are like, are you sure about that? But he's learned from his ways, and hopefully he'll bring some more winning games to Tampa. That's for sure.
Well, I mean, where have we seen this before? A former Jet coach coaching Tom Brady? I think it usually works out pretty well.
Everybody forgets, by the way, on that Belichick failed in his first job,
That's
coaching
true.
the Browns.
That's true. No question about it.
Coaches do better in this league in their second job. So I think Bowles is in a better situation than for the Jets. Learn lessons. I think he does well with the team.
I'm with you, AJ. Same thing as Pete Carroll, too. Pete Carroll, New England, second job in Seattle. A lot of times those guys learn a lot from their first job, and they're better off for it in the second job.
Except Rich Kotite. Rich Kotite's second job, he was not better than his first one. All right.
He shouldn't have gotten that second job.
That's absolutely true. Jay, we'll speak to you next week, and I'm sure there'll be more Tampa Bay Buccaneers news. All right.
You got it, guys. Take
All
care.
right, everyone, have a great one. If you just listened to us for the first time and heard all the noise in the background, it's because we're broadcasting live from the Blue Line Deli and Bagels, once again located at 719 West Jericho Turnpike. Come down next week. Hang out with us. We'd love to see you. Have a great week, everyone. We'll talk more sports next week. Keep it tuned right here to the 365 Sportscast Network.